A California man brutally killed his ex-girlfriend, but his defense tried to argue he could never do that because he loved her too much. Well, now he's facing a sentence of life behind bars. We're speaking with this woman's sister about this very distressing story. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. In the early morning hours of March 17th, 2023, Orange County authorities say then 36-year-old Aaron Stephen Romo got kicked out of a bar after a fight that left him injured. He had reportedly been hitting on a woman inside the bar who rejected his advances, and then she slapped him. Outside the bar, Romo called his ex-girlfriend, 24-year-old Mirelle Mateus, called multiple times, begging for her to pick him up. Now, he wasn't supposed to be doing that because she had a restraining order out against him for attacking her in December of 2022, beating her and throwing her over a patio fence. But unfortunately, she eventually agreed to come and pick him up, and the two went back to his apartment, which at one point they both shared. Mirelle reportedly did not go willingly into the apartment with Romo. A security guard at the complex called police after he claimed he saw Romo violently pull Mirelle inside as she screamed, "I'm not crazy. I'm not going in there." Anaheim police responded to the scene, but left when no one answered the door. It was revealed at trial that Mirelle was killed less than an hour after the police left that scene. Her mother got nervous when she couldn't reach her, so she went to Romo's apartment and found the door open. Mirelle was in the bathtub, badly beaten and strangled to death. Romo was arrested at the home of his current girlfriend at the time, where police say he allegedly tried to commit suicide. At trial, Romo's defense attorney argued that Romo was incapable of killing Mirelle because, quote, he simply loved her too much. Not really an adequate defense there, and you don't have to be an attorney to know that. The jury found Romo guilty of first-degree murder last week. They also convicted him on one count of felony domestic battery resulting in corporal injury and one count of felony imprisonment by menace, violence, fraud, or deceit for that 2022 attack. He now faces the possibility of life in prison, with his sentencing scheduled for June 24th. In a news release, Orange County District Attorney Todd Spritzer said, quote, "A mother's last memory of her daughter should not be finding her lifeless body on the floor where she spent the last moments of her life struggling to get away from the man who had repeatedly abused her. He is a master manipulator who repeatedly lured his victim back in only to ruthlessly beat and strangle her until she took her last breath." Mirelle's family told local news outlets that they had tried to help Mirelle through this abusive situation and expected law enforcement to step in, but they say the system failed them. Now, Mirelle's sister, Sandy Caceros, provided us with all sorts of photos and videos of Mirelle where you can almost feel the life and the joy, and you get a sense of who she was and the love that she brought to this world and the love that she got in return. And right now, we are honored to bring in Mirelle's sister, Sandy, onto the program, onto Sidebar. Sandy, first of all, thank you so much for coming on. I'm just going to say, I am so sorry for your loss and for what you and the family are going through. And I have to imagine that the past, with this trial happening, it can't be easy. So just want to say I'm so sorry for everything you and the family are going through.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Before we even get into the whole legal case and everything, how are you doing? How is the family doing? Walk us through this process.
Oh, it's been a long, tough road. I can just say that after getting the verdict, after getting through trial and the verdict, I want to say we have a sense of relief. I wouldn't call it peace because I think that's going to be missing from our home for forever. They took someone very, very special to us, but right now we're focusing on healing, hoping to get through the sentencing and just focus on our road to healing.
And before we even get into the whole case, just can you tell us about your sister? She seemed to have such joy, like in the photos that we see, and unfortunately, I didn't know her, but you could just see how happy she was. I mean, what was Mirelle like?
Oh my gosh. She was amazing. She was an amazing young girl. Like, um, she was raised out here in Orange County. So she had like that whole Orange County vibe to her. She was just really happy, you know. She literally walked in the room and she would brighten up the whole room. No lie. She had a contagious smile, an even more contagious laugh. She really, really enjoyed her life to the fullest. You know, she used to be a cheerleader. So I think that comes with it too, the perkiness and the happiness. You know, she was a nurse. She had a lot of friends, and you could tell how she was by the way she impacted so many people. So many people. She was so loving.
I can tell.
Hmm.
You know, over the course of this, how much, support the family's gotten and just how much people have spoken out about her. You know, she seemed like such a lovely person, and I'm so sorry. And, we
Thank
talk about
you.
this. Do you remember, if you don't mind sharing, do you remember the last time you spoke to her, the last communication you had with her?
Yes, yeah, it was literally the day before.
Mm.
Literally the day before. We spoke all the time. It was a thing between us where I've never been a morning person, but she has always been a morning person, which is the reason why my mom and has always called us the sun and the moon, right? Um, so she would be up and text me and be like, "Good morning, call me when you wake up." We would FaceTime all the time. The last conversation I had with her was really nice, actually. Where we had a deep conversation was that
Mm.
Monday before her passing, where she came over my house and we just spoke about where her mind was at the time, what her plans were, how she really felt, and just her coming back to herself.
And she never gave you any indication about the defendant, in her life, or that she was still in contact with him or anything like that?
I mean, I always knew. I
Yeah.
always knew. I mean, I'm a domestic violence survivor myself, so I know how hard that is. But yeah, I always knew he was always contacting her. As a matter of fact, it was that Monday that he had showed up at the gym, that
Mm.
she was working out at. And I was just like, okay, this is not good. Like, if he's already popping up in places and things like that without you even knowing, that that's something seriously wrong.
Hey there, guys. We're going to get right back to this very disturbing story in just a minute, but I do want to take a sidebar from Sidebar to talk to you about something completely different, a 180. We are in this whole new culture where we are finally recognizing how important it is to eat clean, to use clean products, because through new studies and analysis, we are finding out some alarming things. Like, apparently, we're eating and drinking roughly a credit card's worth of plastic a week. Microplastics, that most cleaning formulas are 90% water. They lead to excessive carbon emissions. They're often filled with nasty ingredients like chlorine and ammonia. Yeah. Well, that is why I am so excited to talk to you about Blue Land. Now, here's the thing. I was actually using Blue Land even before they became our sponsor. That's how much I believe in what they're doing, how much I love what they're doing. Their whole goal is to eliminate single-use plastic. Their containers and bottles, they have such a cool, really sleek design. Looks great on my counter. I have the hand soap pods for the laundry, toilet, dishwasher. I have bathroom cleaners, glass cleaners. My house is like filled with this stuff, and it's all made with clean ingredients. I love the idea. I'm using something that's not only better for me and my family and the planet, but it takes care of the job. I'm not sacrificing quality or efficiency. All you got to do is just fill it up with water. You drop in the tablet, ready to go. It does a fantastic job. I don't have to go out and buy bulky cleaning supplies anymore. It's so easily refillable, by the way. Refills start at just $2.25. I am saving so much money on this. And by the way, you can also set up a subscription or buy in bulk for additional savings. So maybe it's not surprising that Blue Land is in over 1 million homes, including mine. Blue Land, by the way, has a special offer for Sidebar's audience. Right now, you can get 15% off of your first order by going to blueland.com/sidebar. You won't want to miss this. Blueland.com/sidebar for 15% off. That's blueland.com/sidebar to get 15% off. One of the most disturbing aspects of this story, and I just laid it out for the audience, was the fact that it seemed police could have stepped in. Um, And what is your feeling regarding law enforcement's response here when your sister and the defendant were together in that last moment? Because it seems to me, based on the timeline, something could have been done to prevent this. But I'm curious your perspective on the police response here.
Um, I'm just so disappointed. I feel like the system failed my sister miserably. Um, More than on one occasion, not on just that last occasion, um, but incidents prior to that. And it just changed my mind on how I see the system completely. And this is exactly why my mom and I had, we created this foundation to be able to help people and just change it, and I also came up with this law that I want to be able to pass, that I'm working on right now, to be able to see these people's backgrounds. That's, I'm calling it Morelli's law. And I've been doing everything I can to pass it. We started a petition. And I feel like with that, we're going to be helping out law enforcement. It's basically, an online registration where everybody that has had to deal with domestic violence have to register online, and it has to be public, a public registration, kind of like sex offenders, just with
Right.
domestic violence abusers, because this man had an extensive history of it, and they wouldn't respond, fast enough, or if they would show up. I just feel like they blamed my sister a lot, and I don't like that, I don't.
Would this law be if anyone's arrested or they have to be actually convicted of a domestic violence crime?
It would have to be that they've been convicted or
Okay.
arrested. If it's on the record, yes, definitely. Because
Okay.
he was never really convicted,
Right.
but it still showed in his record, and he was able to
Mhm.
seal it, and men like him need to be, the public needs to know about them.
What's the current status of that legislation, of the law?
I'm actually working on it right now. I have it on change.org. We're almost
Okay.
up to 10,000 signatures. So I'm just trying to connect to the right people to be able to pass this law. I think it's really important.
Great. Well, hopefully we're able to, amplify that here for you. I want to go back to
Thank you.
something though with the police though. Did they ever give you an explanation about why they left the scene that day?
No, they have not.
And you
Besides what
asked,
they had to testify in court, no.
and what explanation have you seen from their testimony or from anything from the police department? They might not have told you directly, but what explanation have they given for why they left?
Basically, that there was not enough probable cause
Hmm.
to go in and do a welfare check, which to me it just sounds ridiculous. It's ridiculous to me.
Did they ever apologize?
No.
You mentioned testimony, right? So this trial happens. I have to imagine that can't be easy for you. What was it like watching this trial?
Oh my god, it was so hard. It was it's actually the toughest thing I've ever had to go through in my life. The last time I obviously seen my sister, she was alive, she was happy. Well, and after that I had to see her in a casket. But to be able to see how my mom found her, I I think that really just broke me, broke my spirit, just broke me, It, she didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve that at all. And just hearing everyone's testimonies and having to hear him go up there and testify himself, and say the things that he was saying, it just, I don't even know how I sat through that whole trial, to be honest with you. I don't.
It's a question we ask with so many trials we cover. The victims' family members, how they're able to get through it. It just shows the strength of you and your family. And I have to ask you. I mean, his defense attorney says that he loved your sister too much to have done this. What was your reaction to that?
I felt offended. I felt disrespected because you don't do that to somebody you love. It wasn't love. It was just, his client being narcissistic, being, all for himself. That's what that was. And the fact that he was sick in his head and just couldn't let go of my sister. It just had nothing to do with love at that point.
Were you ever nervous during the course of the trial that he would be acquitted? He'd be found not guilty?
No, I was very confident that he would get found guilty.
And now the sentencing's happening. What can you tell us about? Are you going to plan to make a statement? What are you hoping for? The judge ultimately imposes the sentence. What are you hoping for the sentence to be?
Um, yes, I will be giving an impact statement, and I'm hoping he gets the max, which is life without parole. But at this point, only God knows, you know.
If it should be life with parole, what are you going to make it your effort to make sure he never gets released?
Yes,
Hmm.
yes, he did this to too many women. There's just no way he can be let out again.
Can you talk about that? Because my understanding is there was this history, right? And at one point the police were encouraging other women to come forward. What can you tell us about that?
So there was what I learned from in court, because he had sealed his records. So that's what that was. So that's why we couldn't see, we had tried to look him up before to see, because there was something off about him from the beginning. And we just couldn't see anything. But from what we learned in court was that he had 5 active restraining orders, once upon a time. And the mother of his first child testified in court. Um, and he had been with her about, like, I want to say 15 years ago. So he started this pattern about 15 years ago. And, what kind of like disturbed me in court to hear is that it was the alcohol. It was his aggression would only come out with alcohol. But she testified there saying that he didn't drink when he met her. They were young. So that means his aggression has been inside of him for even before he started drinking. So he's been like that. I only know a few of them testified, but with each and every one of them, he had the same pattern: the hair pulling, the choking, the, you know, just kicking down doors, breaking phones, like basically causing fear. And a lot of them were scared of him. Even at trial, like one of them couldn't even look at him because she was still scared to this day.
Yeah. And you mentioned something was off. What was your interactions with him like?
Um, from the very first day, I didn't even meet him. I just saw a picture of him. Just He just looked so off to me.
Mm.
I don't know what it was. I mean, I'm a mother, you know what I mean? Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But when I first met him, the way he interacted with my sister, how he just always wanted to keep her here, next to him. It just You could just see the controlling and the possessiveness that he tried to have with my sister. I was like, okay, no, this is not okay. um I tolerated him because of her, but I didn't like him, like.
Right,
And
right,
I
right.
did express that to my sister, and she would always just be like, give him a chance, get to know him, things like that. And I did try, but him and we just cannot.
I'm so sorry. It's unfortunate. We hear this a lot in these kinds of cases, and it's just so tragic. I wanted to highlight you mentioned the law that you're attempting to pass, which clearly would do a lot of benefit for a lot of people. You mentioned the foundation. Can you talk to everybody a little bit more about the foundation? And if everybody's hearing about your sister's story, how can they help? What can they do?
Okay, so we started Morelli's Legacy Foundation, and it is built off of like survivors, advocates, and other victims that have been through domestic violence. So what we do is um, we provide resources. We send them to shelters. We're actually connecting with other different foundations and organizations to be able to help out everyone in need, especially, obviously in domestic violence. I
Right.
just don't want the same thing to happen to anybody else. What, you know what I mean? That what we're going through, pretty much. I want to change that. We do have an Instagram. It's under Justice for Morelli. We also have, we started our YouTube, Morelli's Legacy Foundation as well. Um, and what we're basically asking for are just the signatures. That's what's really going to help us in being able to help everybody else.
Well, let me tell you something. You're doing incredible work. You're doing great work here. Mirelle was a beautiful person. I'm happy that we're getting a chance to know a little bit more about her. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't under these circumstances, but I'll tell you, you are honoring her memory and her legacy with the work that you're doing and you and the family are doing. So hopefully we're able to promote this and people can see this and hopefully they'll be able to help. But again, on behalf of all of us, I'm so sorry for your loss, for what you're going through. We will follow what happens at the sentencing, but we are wishing you and the rest of the family the best of luck as you move forward with this.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me.
You got it. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.